As we enter NFL free agency, the landscape of the league has shifted and our expectations have along with it. The NFL coaching cycle, scouting cycle, and marquee trades have changed our perception of the league and what it pertains for fantasy football. And today I'll be going through my 8 biggest dynasty risers and fallers, ranging from every position to the implications of your guys' dynasty rookie drafts. And speaking of dynasty rookie drafts, if you guys want a chance at entering our newest Listen League startup this offseason, we'll be drawing names for it on Saturday, March 15th. Site subscribers will get extra entries, and the link to fill out the doc will be in the pinned comment of today's video. And as you guys are watching this video will be out a day before the NFL free agency tampering period on March 9th, aka your boy's 25th birthday. So if you guys are watching right now and can bless me with a like and a happy 25th birthday, Danny, in the comments down below, that is the best gift I can ask for from you guys. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And before we talk about specific assets moving in my rankings, let's highlight the NFL coaching changes across the board. I'll give you guys a few seconds to read through this and pause the video if you want to go through the full list. But basically, as you guys can see on the screen, ranging from the NFC to the AFC, all of the relevant NFL coaching changes as far as the head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator across the board. But moving off of the coaching changes, we go to the most valuable riser on this list and one that I want on all of my dynasty teams moving forward, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with Brian Thomas Jr., while he didn't technically rise from my wide receiver 4 in dynasty, this has been the perfect offseason for his fantasy football ceiling. And that sounds weird to say. Obviously, this is a rookie wide receiver this past year, nearly 90 receptions, 1,300 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. But it could not be more true. And based on these comments from Liam Cohen regarding how dynamic Brian Thomas Jr. is and how he wants to funnel his passing game through Brian Thomas Jr., I think we see Brian Thomas Jr. used across the formation, in the slot, obviously what he's able to do on the outside. And that would be a change from how he was utilized as a rookie, because as a rookie, we only saw Brian Thomas Jr. play 28.4% of his sampled snaps from the slot. And with Liam Cohen running the show, I expect all over the formation usage like I mentioned. And on top of helping BTJ continually find advantages across the field, the biggest reason why I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a winner may actually not be directly tied to Brian Thomas Jr., but more so Trevor Lawrence. And the reason why I am so high on Trevor Lawrence potentially having a career year this year is based off Liam Cohen's track records working with quarterbacks in the past. He oversaw 2 very functional Kentucky offenses and helped Will Levis be a top 35 NFL draft pick, helped Baker Mayfield in 2 instances turn his career around, 2022 at the end of his tenure with the Rams. That got him that starting contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And throughout 2024, where we saw Baker post career highs in touchdowns, completion percentage, and passing yardage. And while people may focus on the team's releasing of, Christian Kirk, Evan Engram, and say, well, look at all that vacated volume. That's not exactly what I'm pointing at here. In fact, I do think they supplement those guys through the NFL draft. But I do think it's a signal for what it could be in store for Brian Thomas Jr. in year 2. This is a guy that I think can average over 10 targets per game. And while I technically haven't moved him at wide receiver, it's impossible to ignore a Julio Jones-esque development path. And I absolutely mean it. This time next year, who's to say Brian Thomas Jr. is not the #1 wide receiver in Dynasty at 23 years old? But moving off of Brian Thomas Jr., we head on to my second riser or pair of risers on this list, and that is Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze of the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams jumping up from quarterback 11 to 7, Rome Odunze from 17 to 16 at the wide receiver position. And we'll start off with Caleb Williams because he is still the player that I thought was this generational quarterback prospect, first round startup pick this past offseason, despite everybody really understanding that they had a weak offensive line and they had Shane Waldron calling the shots. Now he has Ben Johnson and 2 big-time moves to acquire interior offensive linemen Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney this offseason. And he's a round cheaper, even 2 rounds cheaper in most of your startups. That does not make sense to me. Now, I don't know when the sentiment on Caleb Williams changed. Like maybe everybody expected he was going to be what Jaden Daniels was this rookie season. And I understand that maybe people were disappointed because they thought there was a possibility he'd be a top 5, top 8 overall quarterback by season's end. But Caleb Williams had a very typical rookie season and now got significant upgrades both to his offensive line, like I said, and offensive play calling, like I said. Ben Johnson took the Chicago Bears job specifically to work with Caleb Williams. Not Las Vegas, not Jacksonville, Chicago, because he wanted to work with Caleb. And I understand everybody expected a little bit more, but why are we dropping Caleb Williams as far as we are? To me, Caleb Williams is still a fringe first-round level startup pick, and yet people are depreciating his cost this offseason. To me, that's a big-time mistake. I think he is poised for a career year working with Ben Johnson. But as much of a winner as Caleb Williams is this offseason with Ben Johnson, I also think Rome Odunze is a massive winner with the hiring. I still think he's got that size, the route running ability, the catch point ability that I saw from him as a prospect as to why he was a top 10 grade in my rankings. And now he's got the opportunity to potentially see some more slot usage, only 35.3% slot rate in 2024. And as we see here from Nate Tice, there's an opportunity we could potentially see some more power slot usage from Rome Odunze to mimic what we saw from Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. Big body, nice moments working from the inside, and is a plus blocker at the position. So I know Rome Odunze, he's a big-time X wide receiver. Like I said, very, very good at the cash point, working downfield. But if he's going to get some more slot usage, maybe that number jumps up to the 40%, 45%, maybe even 50% mark. We will see more varied uses for Rome Odunze. So with Rome Odunze, again, he's currently about, a mid-wide receiver 2 on the dynasty market. And if he does have the breakout year with Ben Johnson, I think he has the opportunity to rise to wide receiver 1 land in fantasy. But moving on to the final riser of today's video, and it's not specifically a player, it's more so an asset. We're talking about the rookie first-round depth in your 2025 rookie drafts, specifically in the 103 to 112 range, because as we know, Ashton Genty, Tetairoa McMillan, more than likely to be the top 2 picks in the majority of your guys' drafts. But specifically, like I said, 103 to 112, big time stock bump based off of what we saw at the NFL Combine. Start with some of the running backs. Quinshon Judkins, Amarin Hampton, Trevion Henderson, all testing extremely well. All guys that should be in the mix for the first round of your rookie drafts. In terms of the wide receiver position, we see, Matthew Golden running a 4.29. I thought he was fast, maybe 4.41, 4.43 level speed. 4.29 was a big shock, especially considering how refined of a 3-level route runner he is. I think the NFL is going to bump him into a top 20 overall pick. And then in terms of the quarterbacks and tight ends, we have a clear quarterback 1 emerging now with Cam Ward, a guy that looks like he's going to be a top 3 overall NFL draft pick, potentially even number 1 overall. And the 2 tight ends, specifically Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, big-time winners based off the media perspective on what we've heard about them. Apparently, both are viewed in NFL circles as clear top 20 picks in this upcoming NFL draft. And guys that didn't really even blow it up, like Luther Burden did what he was expected. Caleb Johnson wasn't a burner on tape, so the 4.58 didn't really impact my standing on where I view him. So overall, I just think this is a big bump for the rookie pick value based off the big winners like Golden, like Hampton, like Judkins, like Trevion Henderson. And the biggest one, in my opinion, if he does play a certain position at the next level, is Travis Hunter. And the reason why I'm saying he's a winner is that we kind of went into the offseason thinking, okay, he's going to be a cornerback first for nearly every NFL team. But we have heard rumblings at the NFL Combine that some teams do view him as a primary wide receiver, specifically the Cleveland Browns and Andrew Berry, who are picking at number 2 overall. If Travis Hunter goes number 2 overall, and Andrew Berry already went on record to say he views him as a primary wide receiver, this class is the opportunity to see a big-time stock bump. We're not even talking about, Travis Hunter, fine wide receiver. He's going to mix into the mid-first round. No, if Travis Hunter is drafted to Cleveland under the assumption he will be playing a wide receiver, I think he is a clear-cut top 3 overall pick in this draft. So that kind of goes to show that if you guys acquired rookie picks, maybe you're tanking throughout the year, you accumulated 4, 5, 6 rookie picks, they are big-time risers on the market, and they are worth more today than they were a month ago. But moving off of my 4 risers, we head on to my 2 followers of today's video, starting off with Seattle Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker. Technically, for the time being, only dropping from RB14 to RB15. But I do think once the NFL draft is complete, like those aforementioned running backs on the risers part, he'll end up closer to that RB18 to 20 range. And listen, I like Walker. I think he's a perfect fit for this wide zone scheme that new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak is trying to run now in Seattle. And you could have made the case that his value even rose after the Tyler Lockett news, after the DK Metcalf trade request, considering the fact that in 2024, this was a top 5 team in pass rate over expectation. But as soon as the Seattle Seahawks trade Geno Smith to the Raiders and make their interest apparent in Sam Darnold, now I'm worried about the state of the offense. And listen, I'll give Sam Darnold his flowers in 2024 in Minnesota. Had that big time year. I understand it. But he goes from a consensus top 10 graded Minnesota offensive line with JJ, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, to now one of the worst offensive situations in the league with a bottom 3 graded line and one of the worst weapon sets in the league now that DK Metcalf is probably going to be gone and Tyler Lockett is confirmed to be gone. Despite that horrendous offensive line, Geno Smith led the Seahawks to 3 winning seasons, and the advanced metrics paint a good picture for just how much he overcame in those years. As you see from this tweet from Ben Solak in 2024, Geno Smith, 8th in success rate, 13th in EPA per dropback, 3rd in on-target rate, 5th in completion percentage over expectation, and 1st in explosive pass rate, along with this tweet from Josh Norris. Geno Smith was pressured on 38.5% of his dropbacks last season, despite having the 11th quickest time to throw at 2.82. For reference with Sam Darnold, last year his time to throw was the third longest in the league at 3.08, and he was pressured at the fourth highest rate at 37.9%. So the concern that I have for Sam Darnold fitting in with this Seahawks offense is that he's not good under pressure and significantly downgrades the offensive line he will be behind. So for me, when I'm looking at Kenneth Walker, if this offense is not functioning the way it was with Geno Smith, with Sam Darnold under the helm, how exactly valuable is he? Like I said, I would rather have Omarion Hampton. Obviously, Ashton Jenkins, we don't even have to talk about it. I'd rather have Omarion Hampton. I'd rather have Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson. If we see day 2 running backs like, Baishal Tootin, Dylan Sampson, Cam Scottaboo, you can make the case that those guys can end up working above Kenneth Walker in Dynasty, because I do think the Seahawks offense has the opportunity to be a train wreck in 2025, considering the pieces that they lost this offseason. And the final faller of today's video is Evan Engram, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, for now falling from my tight end 17 to 20 in Dynasty, but like I mentioned, Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren will more than likely fall closer to that 23, 24, 25 range once these rookie tight ends work into the mix. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize why he is a big time faller, because it's hard for me to envision another team that picks up Evan Engram using him the way Jacksonville has these past few years. Like Max points out here, Evan Engram being a tweener that's unable to play the wide tight end position, but also isn't good enough to be consistently your big slot wide receiver 3, makes me question his utility at his next stop. Jacksonville, as we know, was fine funneling him these inefficient yak targets, these drags, these little out routes, but it's simply not an optimal way to play offense. My biggest concern is that he loses significant snaps on his next team, as teams value a true Y with an 11 personnel shift in the NFL. And at this point in his career, his optimal usage is more of a second tight end in 12 personnel. So if teams are shifting to 11 personnel and he's not good enough to be a full-time wide receiver 3 big slot, but he also can't play in line, how many teams are even going to be interested in Evan Engram? I'm very curious to end up seeing what his market ends up being. But either way, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like down below. And like I mentioned at the top, if you made it this far, comment down below, happy 25th birthday, Danny. Again, I appreciate you guys for that continued support. Also, like I said, if you guys want to be into that Listener League startup, check the pinned comment on today's video. But with that being said, peace out. Enjoy your day. I know I will, especially considering the fact that I'm a quarter century at this point.